come the aliens, they're coming right down to earth. Watch out, it's the aliens, run for all you worth. Here come the Lost Boys, they're in Japan. Wendy and the Lost Boys are making their last stand. It's an alien show.
I have really mixed feelings about Alien Earth so far. I've only watched 3 episodes, only the episodes that are out. I haven't watched the whole season. I know some critics have watched the whole season. I have not. I'm kind of just wanting to watch it week by week with everybody else. Sometimes I like to watch a full season if I get the screeners and come out with a review of the whole season. Sometimes I like to wait because I don't like to, be done with it right away. It can kill the enjoyment. I'm not a huge Netflix binger most of the time. Although I do occasionally binge a Netflix show that I really enjoy. Usually mysteries, when I'm like, oh, I have to find out what happens. Let's stay up all night watching TV. So I'm watching this alongside everybody else. Initially, when I first started watching, I thought, wow, this is cool. They've captured this aesthetic, the cassette futurism aesthetic of the original Alien films. The special effects are really good. The spaceships, it looks good. It sounds good. The costumes, the costume design, all the little details felt very much like, okay, cool. We're capturing Alien, the feel of Alien, in a similar way to how the very detail-oriented Andor captured that Star Wars aesthetic, even while giving us something totally different from most of the Star Wars we've ever seen. But then slowly the doubts began to seep in. And I've got just a couple examples of kind of some of the things that bugged me early on. Right away when I saw Peter Pan, the animated Disney Peter Pan, in this universe, when the boy Cavalier shows it to the young girl who is going to transfer her consciousness into a synth body, sort of like an Avatar situation in a way. But right away when I saw that, I thought, something's off about that. What's bothering me about that so much? And I didn't really know right away. My first initial thought was, well, here's, Disney pushing their products at us, right? It's product placement for Peter Pan. But it's more than that. Later, they also bring in Ice Age. And we learned that this girl, Wendy, and her brother, Joe, used to watch Ice Age movies together. And so they have all this sort of inside references in their past, which come to play later in the show, because he thinks she's dead. His sister was very sick and secretly was taken to, in secret was taken to Neverland, because there's all these Peter Pan references, which is this research island for the company Prodigy that Boy Cavalier, the youngest trillionaire in the world, runs. And that's where she's the first human to be transferred into a synth. So this was all secret, but later on, when they reunite, this Ice Age reference plays a part in that. But I was thinking about it, and Ice Age and Peter Pan just really don't fit in this world. I know this is Earth, right? Alien Earth, it's in the title. I know that alien movies take place in a version of our world, but the whole thing, there's a consistent aesthetic, right? It's like a darker, more industrial cassette futurism than Star Wars. But Star Wars is that too. Star Wars is a more fantastical, fantasy-oriented cassette futurism. And that is to say that a lot of the technology, while super advanced to the point where they can travel through space, is very analog. And we don't have a lot of, they don't have smartphones or in the same way that we do, or they don't have, flat screens and touch screens and all that. All the technology in Alien and Star Wars and in similar films in this genre have a sort of 1970s, 1980s tech level, right? All the screens are green and black. It's not advanced in the way that our world is, or that something like Avatar is. James Cameron's Avatar, not Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is much better than James Cameron's Avatar. But that technology, that level of technology and that aesthetic is super, 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 super important to getting the feel right? And actually, in Andor, one of my main quibbles with season 2 was when they show video, right? They have like a video of of stuff that's going on in or like an advertisement for the Gorman people, their planet, and they also have like a talk show and a couple times, and that really kind of irked me for a similar reason, but it's much less prominent in Andor. It's sort of one and done, but it doesn't really fit. Like every other time we've seen, I think for the most part, every other time we've seen in Star Wars, we've seen some sort of like digital video type thing. It's a hologram, right? It's these, monochromatic holograms. And that's sort of like, that's the Star Wars version of video. So when you see a video on a screen, it's very off-putting. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that they put that in Andor. I know I'm always gushing about Andor, but there are times when I am critical of it. And here, it just felt like, really, like in this version of Earth, there was the Ice Age movies. Like there's Disney, and people still watch this stuff, like in the 21, whatever the date is. I don't know. I'm not an alien lore fanatic. So I'm coming at this review as an alien casual. I've seen I'm pretty sure I've seen every movie. But some of them, it's been a really long time. And then other than the first two, I haven't rewatched any of the movies, and I don't really get into any of the fiction or the lore stuff that comes outside of that. I'm just very casual, but I still really care about my immersion in this world. And they do such a good job with the costumes and the spaceships and the feel of this sort of very industrial space feel that they capture. And then they put Ice Age and they put Peter Pan, and it feels like, okay, now we're being taken out of that universe and put back in our own. And I know it's Earth, but it feels like for this series to work, for the dates to work, for them to have this technology that is nothing like ours, that their world has to be a different world where a lot of the things like CGI never were invented, right? In the world of Alien, I just don't see CGI as being a thing, because look at their technology, look at their ships, look at the screens that they're using. It doesn't make sense. So that really bugged me. And then just the whole like weirdness with the Peter Pan references. Like they call themselves the Lost Boys. They all get different names, like Curly and I can't think of the names. Sorry. But did I have the cast here? Let me look. Nibs. That's what I was trying to think of. Nibs, Curly, Toodles. I'm a huge fan of the movie Hook. I think it's my favorite Peter Pan movie. I love Robin Williams so much, and I've talked about Hook on this channel before. So I'm a huge Peter Pan fan, and so I should like this, right? I should like that they're referencing this, but it doesn't quite work for me. Nibs brings it up in the third episode, like how incongruent it is to be calling these children placed in adult synth bodies the Lost Boys, because the Lost Boys never grow up, but they're like forced to grow up right away. It's the opposite. And I'm glad they actually addressed that in the show. That made me feel a lot better about it. But overall, don't love the direction they took with all that. And I also just don't really love the whole thing that they're putting kids into synth bodies because they have imagination and they can like adapt to the synth, whereas an adult brain is too like formed and it's not malleable enough. I don't know. Like if you can develop this technology, you could probably transfer anybody. Like if the brain's going to transfer, it's going to transfer. And what we get is kind of like a little too much of the kids in older bodies thing. It's just kind of, it doesn't work for me that well. Like it bothers me. I'm kind of annoyed by a lot of the characters, and it just feels weird to have basically kids in an Alien series, even if they're in adult bodies. It feels weird. I will say the third episode helped sell me on all of it. I liked the third episode better than the second episode. And I liked the first episode better than the second episode. Though the first two are now kind of blurring together because I watched them all at once and it feels like just watching one episode. But I do remember feeling by the end of the second episode, like, I don't really care about any of these characters. I really don't like the brother, Joe, even though he's played by the actor who plays Nemec in Andor. And I loved Nemec in Andor. He's one of my favorite characters Joe just feels like, I don't know, that maybe it's not even his fault. Maybe it's the scenario around his character, which is he's this. There's two plots, right? There's the research vessel, and then there's the research island. It's all about research. It's a science show. It's a science fiction show. The research vessel is carrying specimens back for one of the corporations, the Yutani, whatever, Wayland Yutani. I'm probably getting that wrong. Again, not a big alien lore guy. Anyways, it's bringing all these alien specimens back, and things go wrong, and everyone in the ship is killed except for the cyborg, Morrow, Morrow, one of my favorite characters in the show. We'll get to him in a bit. Anyways, he survives basically by kind of sacrificing the crew, and they crash into Earth, into one of the prodigy cities, because the corporations have kind of divvied up the world. And so then Prodigy sends like rescue soldiers in to figure out what's going on, and a lot of them get killed by the Xenomorph that was on the ship. And then Boy Cavalier sends Wendy and the Lost Boys in because she sees her brother is going in as part of the rescue crew. So they have to go in after them. And this could have all been really cool, but there's just so many weird things about it. Like, there's hardly any troops are sent in. They're all picked off really easily. The Xenomorph itself doesn't actually seem that frightening, daunting, or smart. Certainly not as smart as we've seen in the past. And I don't know, like, this whole sequence, I just wasn't into it. They find this, they go to this weird party. There's like a old, like, French Renaissance, like, Louis XIV, Marie Antoinette type party going on with wigs and everything. And the Xenomorph goes in and kills everyone, but it kills them all in like 4 seconds, I swear to God. Most of them are still sitting at the table, like they didn't even run when this alien creature ran in, and just dispatched all of them in the blink of an eye. So there's still these little moments where I'm just like, I don't know, like I don't care about the characters at this point, so I don't really care that they're in trouble or that they're dying. Third episode, I do feel like it kind of brought me back in. Wendy goes in and she rescues her brother. They reunite, and Xenomorph kind of has set up a trap, which is good because we want to see a smart Xenomorph. And then Wendy kills the Xenomorph. And I'm fine with that because she's like super strong synth. Like, she's built, we've been told that these synths are like really, really powerful and strong and indestructible, but they're also kids. So that's kind of their Achilles heel. But the actual fight where she kills the Xenomorph is off screen. And I feel like there's been a lot of, like, throughout the first 3 episodes, a lot of the good stuff kind of happens off screen, which is weird. Then she's injured really badly. Her brother's injured really badly. And so for the rest of the episode, they're pretty much out of the picture, which I think is a good choice narratively because it gives all the other characters a lot more room. We especially get room for my favorite character in the show, which is Kirsch, the synth, basically major domo for Boy Cavalier, played by Timothy Olyphant. Timothy Olyphant I just love Timothy Olyphant. What can I say? I've loved him in everything he's done. Justified and Deadwood and just everything. And he was even in The Mandalorian, and he was great in that. In fact, I was just thinking today, he could have been a good choice for The Mandalorian himself. I don't know. I'm so burnt out on Pedro Pascal. I'm like going back to previous roles and thinking, who could have played that? But not for his Game of Thrones role. Pedro Pascal was the perfect choice for the Viper. Anyways, we get Timothy Olyphant, and we have a really good scene with Timothy Olyphant and Morrow, the cyborg from the research ship, played by Babu Sise. I'm probably saying that wrong. He's great. They're both great. And so this scene between them where he comes in, Morrow is transferring a bunch of data from the ship to like, his mission is to like save these, or to retrieve these alien specimens and get them back to his corporation. But he's encountered 2 of these lost boys, the child synths, and he's talking with them, and they kind of reveal too much information, and so he's interrogating them, and that's when Kirsch shows up, Timothy Olyphant's character. And there's just a great moment, this little showdown, and Kirsch has a great line, and I'm going to butcher it, but Morrow says this is his ship, and he says a ship isn't a place, it's a thing, and this is like a ball being thrown into another yard. It's in my yard, so now it's my ball. See, I totally butchered it. But of course, the line itself is great, and Timothy Oliphant's delivery is great. He's like this weird, like Blade Runner Marshall synth guy now. I mean, even his hair is like straight out of Blade Runner, and that's kind of lovely. But anyways, these are probably my two favorite characters. I also do like Wendy, and I think Sydney Chandler, who plays her, who I guess was in Sugar, but she didn't have a very huge part in that show. I liked Sugar a lot. Speaking of movies about, well, I won't spoil it, but I think the performances from these main actors are all really, really, really strong. And really the acting across the board is really strong. Where the show for me sort of starts to slip and fail is just that it's been hard for me to care about a lot of the characters. And I feel like certain things in the plot have just been rushed. Like we kind of rushed through the research ship's crash. We kind of rushed through all these kids being put into these bodies. I don't know. It feels like even if it's not rushed, it's still not developed enough. And so by the time we get to episode 3, I don't really care. And I want to care. I want to care. Maybe I just don't care about this franchise enough. Maybe it's my problem and not the show's problem. But a good show will bring in the casual viewers and will give them, even if they don't get so interested they go get steeped in lore, they care about the characters enough to keep watching, to keep rooting for them. I'm not sure we're there yet. Maybe we'll get there. The third episode, they bring the specimens back to the research facility, and Kirsch notices that whenever the xenomorph eggs are near a human, they start to activate. So Boy Cavalier says, okay, no more humans in this area. So Kirsch starts working on sort of figuring out how they work. What he gets, the little baby xenomorph, and meanwhile they're working on Joe's body, and it's quite disturbing. It looks like they're taking parts of his body so that they can use it to test with the xenomorph. I'm not sure if they're going to turn him into a cyborg. That seems like pretty likely at this point. But all that's really interesting, and there's a really weird sequence where Wendy wakes up from her coma. Well, it's not really a coma. She just had to get repaired, right? Because she's a synth. But every time, while Kirsch is working with this little guy, she starts to hear like a screeching in her head, and then she like gets into the same research room with them, and the screeching gets really bad, and she collapses on the floor. And it appears that none of the people in that room, there's three people, including Kirsch and one of the Lost Boys, and none of them react to her falling on the floor. And we just see Kirsch, walking away in the following scene. And I just wonder if she actually was there, or if this was all in like her, if she was getting sent some sort of psychic thing from the xenomorph into her mind while she's still out cold, because the sequence is very dreamlike. And also, this is a Noah Hawley show, and he has also produced in the past the Fargo series and Legion. Both are very strange, especially Legion. Legion is a mindfuck. Like, you do not know what's going on sometimes. There's so much shit that goes on in the mind, and it's hallucinatory, and it's crazy. I do recommend it. I think it's quite good. But if we're dealing with that kind of storytelling and these kind of concepts, it's very, very likely that that whole sequence with Wendy, she was just still asleep and seeing this being psychically communicated with from the alien, which opens a lot of possibilities. Will the synth hybrids have some sort of connection to the aliens since they're human? Will it turn out that a xenomorph can actually can go into a human body and breed and mature that way, become a parasite, whatever. Lots of possibilities that are very interesting. And so even though I've kind of not fallen in love with this show and found it kind of dull at times and hard to care about the characters, and I don't like the Ice Age shit, all that aside, I still find myself very interested in where it's going. And it could go either way at this point. It could be really interesting and a really cool setup for more alien stories, or it could collapse on its own framework. The timeline is also interesting because this takes place just a couple years before the original Alien movie. To me, that's a little weird because I felt like, or at least again, maybe I'm just ignorant, but I sort of felt like people on Earth weren't really aware of xenomorphs at the time that Ripley was encountering one on the derelict. So I don't know. That throws me off a little bit, but I could also see how they could tie this into that in some way, somehow. I don't know. We'll see. Your guess is as good as mine. All told, I'm going to keep watching it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I don't think it's the Andor of Alien, but who knows? First 3 episodes of Andor were a little slow. I wasn't super invested in it until the end of the 3rd, so it's very possible that this picks up and that we get a lot more interesting drama and more character development, more conflict, and I think Kirsch could be a really interesting villain. Like if he's sort of plotting his own, it certainly seems like he kind of has his own agenda. And he's sort of just putting up with Boy Cavalier. Boy Cavalier is very arrogant and thinks he knows everything, and he's very bossy and a little creepy. A little creepy with all the kids stuff. Bringing all these kids to his private island. You billionaires and trillionaires bringing kids to their private islands, not a good look. Just not a good look. And so I think there's a lot of potential, like cool backstabbing and politicking and wild cards. Morrow's a total wild card. I think Kirsch is a wild card. Wendy's certainly a wild card. So we've got a lot of cool elements in the mix, and I'm definitely more positive about the whole thing after episode 3 than I was when I had only seen the first 2. What do you guys think? What do you think of Alien Earth so far? Please don't say you think it's woke, because there are absolutely shows and movies out there that are overly woke and obnoxiously so, and that are very agenda-driven and whatever, but this does not seem like one of them. If you have a problem with Wendy killing a xenomorph, remember, Ripley was a woman. She did it all first, way back in the 70s. So, and she wasn't even a super strength synth chick, She's just smart and wanted to survive. Nothing will ever compare to that, though, right? Alien was the best. Aliens was the second best. Everything else has been a contender for like way down the totem pole of how, I've liked a lot of, I didn't like Alien Romulus at all. I actually liked Prometheus quite a bit. So Alien Covenant, they've all had pretty cool things and also less good stuff, but they've never reached the dread and the tension and suspense of the first movie. And then the second movie is just good like action fun, and those two are very different from one another, but both quite fun. So that's all I have to say about that. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think, and like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and peace.
It's an alien show.